On the previous episode of Creative Pet Keeping, I set up the spawning tanks as well as added the males so they can acclimate. Today, we're going to be adding the females. Let's see how it goes. Let's get right into it and add the Tancho female with the male. I'm going to be using a guppy breeding box that floats, and I don't have to temperature acclimate the female in this case because it is really hot over here and the temperature in the jars is matching the temperature of the tank. So I just gently plopped her in there and I'm going to let her adjust to the tank in the safety of the breeder box. You can technically skip this step, and in some cases it may work, but I highly advise that you allow these fish to go through this introductory courtship phase. You want to protect the female because even though there's always going to be some aggression and nipping during spawning, you can do your best to reduce it. Here's an example of how powerful a male's bite can be. The next female that I will be adding to the male on the right is going to be floating in a beanie container because I don't know where my other floating breeder box is. A lot of breeders will cut up plastic water bottles to put the females inside of the water bottle, and sometimes they'll cut up even little holes so there is water flow. So that is another method. Personally, I have not tried that yet, but it is something I would like to try in the future. When it comes to the amount of time you will have the female in a container, I've tried anywhere from 6 to 8 hours and then releasing the female at night so they can spawn the next morning, and that's worked before, but I've had better luck in making them wait about 24 hours before releasing the female. And in between this time, I do card my tank because I notice bettas tend to get very easily distracted, so this kind of lets them focus on each other a lot better. I always leave a gap so I can be creepy and peek on them, which is what I'm doing right now. Another thing for you to pay attention to is the courtship ritual that this male performs is going to be vastly different from the other male. Everyone has their own kind of unique thing, and while there will be some similarities, there will be some differences. In this case, this guy likes to do this weird vertical shimmy where he just kind of stays there and he just does the low effort shimmy dance, like as you see right here. Low energy mode. As you are observing your pair, you want to look for signs that the female is interested in spawning or ready. Other than, making sure that your female is very conditioned and very eggy, you can look for breeding stripes, but that won't usually show up on marble bettas. So another thing you can pay attention to, other than the female kind of being interested, trying to swim towards the male, looking at the male, is how she angles her body. If she angles it downwards like this, that is a submissive posturing that the female will do to make herself not threatening to the male, and oftentimes she will do that when she's also interested in the male. I do also want to add a disclaimer that just because you go through this conditioning phase does not mean that you may completely prevent injuries from happening. In my case, it does help to reduce it, but there is always a risk that your bettas may get injured during the spawning process, and it is just the normal part of betta breeding. Bettas are aggressive fish that when they do spawn, and they will fight. So after 24 hours, I finally released the male and the female, and this part is usually kind of spooky, for me at least, because there will be some nipping and some fighting. I usually do this before the lights go off, so they get about 10 to 15 minutes with the light on, and then the lights go off, and then go to sleep. During this time, you may see some chasing, some fin nipping, some posturing, and it could be a little spooky, but it is part of the courtship process. So for the most part, you just kind of have to trust the process and let them be, while also checking in on them regularly. And you kind of have to leave them alone, let them do their thing, and the next day check on them early in the morning. I've had most spawns spawn for me early in the morning, but I've had some also spawn like midday, somewhere between like maybe I would say 1 to like 3 p.m. as well, and I've never had any late night spawns. So now that these guys had some time to meet up in the tank, acclimate, condition, and now they're getting released, all I can do is let them go to sleep. We'll check on them tomorrow and we will hope for the best and see if we have any successful spawns. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! And this is why I do voiceovers, because I don't know why. Every time I choose to film, some sort of crazy chaos ensues. I don't even know what was happening at this time, but it sure sounded crazy.